June 11th, 2026 turned into a night the WNBA won't be forgetting anytime soon. Clark and Aliyah Boston stepped onto the court against the Chicago Sky and left with their names all over the history books after combining to break 8 WNBA records in a single game. Yes, you heard that right, not one record, not two, 8. In this video, we're going to break down each of those 8 records and revisit all the biggest moments from a game that became far more dramatic than anyone expected. From Indiana's fast start and the momentum swings that nearly changed everything, to the pressure-packed moments of overtime where Clark and Boston elevated their games and etched their names into WNBA history, we'll cover it all. If you're supporting Clark and Aliyah Boston after this historic performance, drop CC and AB record breakers in the comments and let everyone know you were here to witness greatness.
Way outside for Clark, who drops a 3.
That makes it look so easy.
Oozing confidence, hits to Boston, and it's right on the money. Clark back for Boston, hand delivered. Clark able to track it down and feeds inside to Boston.
What a pass.
Boston lays it in, and a foul!
One sequence from this game perfectly captured the nightmare Clark and Aliyah Boston created for the Chicago Sky all evening. It starts with Boston setting a screen near the top of the arc, freeing Clark to come off the pick with momentum. In that split second, Chicago's defender is forced into an impossible decision: stick tightly to Clark or rotate to cut off Boston as she rolls toward the basket. Chicago found itself trapped in that exact dilemma possession after possession, and for nearly 45 minutes, Clark and Boston kept exploiting it with ruthless efficiency. Every adjustment the Sky tried seemed to open the door for something else, turning their two-player action into one of the biggest problems Chicago simply couldn't solve.
14 points and 4 dimes.
Right here, Clark. She's going to get a lot of attention, which is going to allow Aliyah Boston to pop, set her feet, and be able to get going. And then right here, again, when you play with a good passer, you cut and you keep your...
What made this combination nearly impossible to defend wasn't just the play design itself. It was the fact that both Clark and Aliyah Boston could punish you as the first option on any possession. Boston had been so dominant as a roller that Chicago couldn't treat her like a traditional screener and simply hang back in the paint. The moment she set a pick, the defense was forced to make a legitimate choice with real consequences attached to it. Clark finished the night with 32 points and 10 assists in 40 minutes, controlling the tempo and creating scoring opportunities seemingly at will. Many of those assists came from threading passes to Boston on the roll, where she either converted easy baskets or forced the defense into fouling. At a certain point, this stopped being about defensive strategy. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. Clark and Aliyah Boston were operating at a level the defense simply couldn't match, doing things that no realistic game plan could completely take away.
She hasn't been to the free throw line very often, but that will set up her ability to get to the line by knocking down triples.
Here's Boston's second three-point look. That one goes down. It's her 11th already of the season. She hit 6 a year ago.
There's that get action that's really tough to guard.
Boston finds some space, lays it in, and an and one herself, an answer for Boston. This run started with Taylor. Boston hounding Stevens. Shot clock down to 7. Boston comes up with the block. Hines Allen pulls it down.
Chicago threw just about every defensive adjustment imaginable at them. They switched defenders on the pick and roll. They sagged into drop coverage. They even sent extra defenders at Clark before she had a chance to turn the corner off the screen. But no matter what look the Sky presented, nothing consistently disrupted Indiana's rhythm. The reason? Clark and Aliyah Boston weren't simply running a set play. They were reading and reacting to everything unfolding in front of them. It became a constant chess match, and Chicago was always one move behind. Clark addressed that chemistry after the game in the simplest way possible. I feel like I always know where Aliyah is. I think we got a little telepathy now. She also pointed to the relationship they've built away from basketball. I think we're good friends. Like, that always helps. They weren't just executing an offense, they were operating with a level of instinct and connection that made every defensive adjustment feel a step too late. The Sky kept searching for an answer, but Clark and Boston had already figured out how to counter it before it arrived.
Other than your time on the court together, what do you think has contributed to the growth and chemistry among you two over the years?
I mean, I think we're good friends. Like, that always helps. Like,
yeah, like you can be teammates and play basketball, but if you like really care for each other and love each other off the court, and I think that goes for our whole team, is like when you have that bond and you truly get to know somebody and build a relationship with them, like that helps, because when you're on the court, you're going to go through moments of adversity. Like that's just basketball, and that's what helps you get you through. But also, like I feel like I always know where Aliyah is. I think we got a little telepathy now, so hopefully we get that going more too.
While Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston grabbed most of the headlines, Indiana's supporting cast played a crucial role in making sure their historic performances translated into a win. Maya Hines-Allen brought an entirely different presence inside, finishing with a remarkable plus 25 in just 23 minutes of action. One of the biggest momentum-shifting moments came when she rejected a shot from JC Sheldon, shutting down a Chicago possession at a point when the Fever desperately needed a defensive stand. Of Indiana's 114 total points, Clark and Boston accounted for 66 of them, delivering more than half of the team's offense. But basketball is rarely a two-person job. The players around them contributed in all the little ways that mattered, providing just enough support to keep the Sky from mounting another serious comeback. 8 records, 2 teammates, 1 unforgettable night. When you consider the circumstances surrounding what happened on June 11th, the accomplishment becomes even more impressive. They weren't chasing statistics with the game already decided. They were delivering historic performances while fighting to secure a victory, which makes what they achieved that night all the more remarkable.
Ball gets in there. Boston, another offensive rebound. It's Indiana's 13th. Boston lays it in, and a foul. The offensive rebounds pay off.
Let's begin with Aliyah Boston's 34-point explosion, because that number represents much more than just a new career best. With that performance, Boston joined an incredibly exclusive group. She became only the second center during the entire 2026 WNBA season to record a 30-point game, putting her alongside none other than Aja Wilson. Think about that for a moment. But as impressive as Boston's scoring outburst was, the next accomplishment is the one that truly stunned the basketball world. Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston each recorded a 30-point double-double in the very same game, becoming the first pair of teammates in WNBA history to ever do it. The first ever. Since the WNBA's inaugural season in 1997, the league has featured countless legendary partnerships and championship-caliber combinations. Some of the greatest players the sport has ever seen have shared the floor together. That's what elevates this night from being merely impressive to genuinely historic. It wasn't just a great performance by 2 talented players. It was a breakthrough that rewrote a piece of league history that had stood untouched for nearly 3 decades.
Tonight, another Commissioner's Cup game. The Fever are in defense of their championship from a year ago. They likely need to win tonight to keep those chances alive. That pass deflected way outside for Clark, who drops a 3.
Makes it look so easy.
She's coming off a great defensive performance in Washington, but she held Citron well below her season averages.
Caitlin Clark's stat line of 32 points and 10 assists didn't just help Indiana secure a victory. It added another chapter to both Fever and WNBA history. With that performance, Clark set the Indiana Fever franchise record for the most 30-point double-doubles ever recorded by a player in team history. What's even more remarkable is that she's accomplished it in just her 3rd season. Records like that are usually built over years of consistency and longevity. Clark reached that milestone long before most people would have expected, but she wasn't finished rewriting the record books. Clark now owns the WNBA record for the most career games with at least 30 points and 10 assists, with 3, and the gap between her and everyone else makes the achievement even more unbelievable. That means Clark isn't simply leading the category, she has created a standard that no one else has come close to matching. While other players have occasionally produced a single game of that magnitude, Clark has turned it into something she's repeated multiple times, and that leads to yet another historic milestone. She became the first player in WNBA history to record multiple 30-point, 10-assist games in the same season. The 2026 season isn't even over yet.
Good double team.
Clark just oozing confidence. Hits to Boston, and it's right on the money. Clark driving baseline, creates some space and finishes with the reverse.
That looked like a little bit of matchup zone to me.
Indiana needs offense. Clark spinning. Clark, oh, she got to the rim.
Caitlin Clark added yet another milestone to an already historic night by tying Diana Taurasi and Chelsea Gray for the 4th most double-doubles by a guard in WNBA history. Think about the names involved there. And she didn't stop there. Clark also became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 200 points, 50 rebounds, and 50 assists in a single season. What makes that achievement so impressive is the balance it requires. It's not a record built solely on scoring, nor is it one that can be achieved by piling up assists. It demands excellence across multiple areas of the game. You have to put points on the board, create opportunities for teammates, and impact possessions beyond the stat sheet. In other words, every part of your game has to be firing at the same time. Clark reached that benchmark quicker than anyone who came before her. Then there's the bigger picture, the performance of the Indiana Fever as a team. The Fever finished the night with 114 points, the highest single game scoring total in franchise history. But this wasn't a case of piling up numbers in a stress-free blowout with the outcome already decided. The offense wasn't just explosive, it was historic under pressure.
Thanks for coming right here.
Of course.
Hey, good energy, brother.
Oh, great job, man.
Come on. Thanks for coming.
Oh, man, great game. I got to come back.
I know, I love it. You need to come every game.
I know,
you gotta come every game.
I'm locked in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, big dub.
Perhaps the scariest part of this entire story is that Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston are both just 24 years old. Together, they shattered 8 WNBA records in a single night, and there's every reason to believe they're still nowhere near reaching their full potential as a duo. For a while, it looked like Indiana was on its way to an easy victory. The Fever stormed out to a massive advantage, building a 19-point lead and taking a 35-16 edge with 7 minutes and 29 seconds remaining in the second quarter. The energy inside the arena suggested this game might be over before it ever became interesting. Then everything changed. Chicago suddenly flipped the momentum, closing the quarter with a 14-2 run over the final 3 minutes. What had once felt comfortable quickly became tense, and by halftime, Indiana's cushion had been cut to just 46-40. The Sky completely took control of the game, outscoring Indiana 39-27 in the period. The lead disappeared, and Chicago claimed its first advantage since the opening moments, when the score had been 7-6. From the middle of the second quarter through the end of the third, the numbers painted an ugly picture for Indiana. Over that stretch, the Fever surrendered 65 points while managing only 33 of their own. Many of Chicago's scoring opportunities came the same way. Indiana mistakes turning into easy transition chances. Aliyah Boston addressed the issue honestly after the game. In some of those stretches where teams go on runs, we turned the ball over 2 out of the 3 possessions in a row, and then we're not getting stops. It was a straightforward assessment of what had happened. 8 records, 1 intense battle, and 2 24-year-olds proving they could deliver when the pressure was at its highest.
Yeah, for either of you, this is the 3rd straight game you've had that double-digit lead in the second quarter or third quarter, then lost it kind of in that way. Just what similarities do you see between these 3 games and losing the lead like that, and what can you do to just stop that from happening?
Most of it's on us. Like, we just have to make sure that we're taking care of the ball. I think in some of those stretches where teams go on run, we've turned the ball over 2 out of the 3 possessions in a row, and then we're not getting stops. So for us, it's about sometimes maybe slowing ourselves down a little bit, making sure that we get a quality shot, and then locking down on defense. I think Chicago got out some transition buckets, got downhill a little bit, hit the pocket, and we weren't able to recover. So for us, just about taking care of the ball and then making sure that we're executing.
If there was one player who completely changed the direction of this game, it was Sydney Taylor. The Sky rookie came off the bench and caught fire in the third quarter, pouring in 16 points in that period alone while shooting 5 of 6 from the field. By the end of the night, she had racked up 30 points in just 21 minutes of action, delivering one of the most unexpected performances of the game. With the Fever holding a 5-point lead and just over a minute remaining in the fourth quarter, Mitchell drove aggressively to the basket looking to put the game away. It was the type of play that could have drained precious seconds off the clock and all but secured the win. Instead, the layup didn't fall. What could have been the final dagger became a missed opportunity. Rather than slamming the door shut, Indiana gave Chicago a reason to believe. The Sky seized that opening, extended the battle, and turned what once looked like a comfortable Fever victory into a dramatic finish that came down to the wire.
Chelsea Mitchell is a talented scorer, but she might have the worst basketball IQ of anyone I've ever seen. Look at this play here. She gets the steal, and the Fever are up by 5 with a minute left. So in this situation, all you want to do is hold it and bleed the clock and get a good shot, but no, she drives into the paint over 2 defenders at 5'8", and it's a turnover. This is genuinely worse than the Fox play. They're up by 3 here with 7 seconds left. All they have to do is inbound the ball and hold it because they're going to get fouled. Look at how she's looking at the rim. She was genuinely going to shoot this ball, and because of that, she doesn't control it, and it's a turnover.
To the wire. Then came the sequence that nearly turned Indiana's historic night into heartbreak, with the Fever holding a 98-95 lead and just 5.1 seconds left. All they needed was one clean possession to close it out. Instead, Chelsea Mitchell lost control of the ball, giving Chicago one final opportunity to extend the game, and the Sky made Indiana pay for it. With only 0.9 seconds remaining, Skylar Diggins knocked down the game-tying three-pointer, stunning the crowd and forcing the game into overtime. Just moments earlier, Indiana looked like it had done enough to escape with the win. Suddenly, everything changed. After the game, head coach Stephanie White admitted that the team hadn't prepared for that particular late-game scenario as thoroughly as it should have. We haven't worked on probably as much of that situation as we needed to, White acknowledged. But when overtime began, the Fever went right back to what had carried them all night long. Clark and Aliyah Boston returned to the same pick-and-roll action that had been tormenting Chicago from the opening tip. Why change it? Myisha Hines-Allen had been making life difficult for JC Sheldon all night long. Whenever Sheldon tried to create offense or generate momentum, Hines-Allen seemed to be there to disrupt it with her physicality, timing, and defensive pressure, and once overtime started, that dynamic didn't change. While the spotlight remained fixed on Clark and Boston's historic partnership, Indiana's supporting cast continued making the little winning plays that mattered most. The Sky had earned a second chance. The Fever had no intention of letting them take advantage of it.
For feed, Boston can't finish. Pass ahead, Sheldon, swatted!
Fever fans are already very familiar with JC Sheldon, and not simply because of what she's capable of doing on the basketball court. So when Myisha Hines-Allen rose up earlier in the game to swat away one of Sheldon's attempts, the reaction inside the arena was immediate. It wasn't just a block, it felt like a message, and Hines-Allen backed up that statement with everything else she brought to the floor. In only 23 minutes of action, she posted an incredible plus 25, a number that perfectly reflected how different Indiana looked whenever she checked into the game. The Fever played with more energy, more toughness, and a greater sense of control. Maintaining that level of efficiency and physicality for more than 40 minutes against Chicago's interior defense isn't something that happens by accident. And paired with Clark's command of the offense, it became the foundation for one of the most memorable performances the Fever have ever put together.
Clark on the handoff from Boston. Clark back for Boston. She's open and delivers.
Indiana finished the night with 114 points, and that's even more impressive when you consider the circumstances surrounding the game. This wasn't an easy blowout against an overwhelmed opponent. The Fever had watched a 19-point lead disappear, forcing them into overtime against a Chicago team that refused to quit. Yet when the pressure reached its highest point and every possession carried extra weight, Indiana's offense didn't fall apart. Questions surrounding Stephanie White's late-game management remained part of the conversation, particularly regarding the sequence that gave Chicago one final opportunity with 5.1 seconds remaining in regulation. Those decisions mattered. After the game, White openly acknowledged that the coaching staff hadn't devoted enough time to preparing for that specific end-of-game fouling scenario. We haven't worked on probably as much of that situation as we needed to, she admitted. The Fever escaped this one because they had enough talent, resilience, and star power to recover in overtime. But late game mistakes and situational lapses have a way of becoming much more costly against elite opponents. This time, Indiana survived. The next time, they may not be so fortunate. Now the challenge is making sure the execution consistently matches it when the margin for error disappears.
Indiana needs offense. Clark spinning. Clark. Oh, she got to the rim.
After the game, Caitlin Clark spoke about overtime and gave a lot of the credit to Aliyah Boston, emphasizing that the chemistry people see on the court didn't appear overnight. According to Clark, their connection goes beyond simply memorizing plays or following a game plan. It's rooted in the relationship they've built off the floor, getting to know one another as people, developing trust, and understanding how each other thinks in high-pressure moments. And considering what they accomplished against Chicago, that should be a frightening thought for the rest of the league. Clark and Boston just achieved something no pair of teammates had ever done in WNBA history. Not recently, not in the modern era, ever. Which means whatever limit people believe this partnership has, they likely haven't reached it yet. The potential of this duo still feels largely untapped. Then there's the bigger picture of what Indiana accomplished as a team. The Fever's 114-point performance set a new franchise record, and the circumstances surrounding that number make it even more impressive.
On the shot clock, Clark driving, blocked by Koulibaly. Oh! Looking like Anunoby. Sorry, San Antonio fans.
Ouch, Grady. Yeah, that hurt a lot of people.
It was reminiscent.
Caitlin Clark now owns 3 career games with at least 30 points and 10 assists, the most in WNBA history. What's even more incredible is that every other player the league has ever seen has reached that mark just once at most. Their place in history as the first teammates ever to record 30-point double-doubles in the same game wasn't the result of one star carrying a sidekick. Neither player was playing a supporting role. Both were driving the performance. After the final buzzer, head coach Stephanie White summed it up perfectly. When you have a point guard and you have a center that are special, you can build a team around that. On that night, Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston combined to break 8 WNBA records in a single game, and many of those milestones were only possible because 2 players reached elite levels simultaneously, feeding off one another possession after possession. For 45 minutes and an overtime period, Chicago searched for a solution to Indiana's pick-and-roll attack. How do you stop Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston when both are operating at their absolute best? So if you're impressed by this historic performance, drop CC and AB record breakers in the comments to show your support. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest WNBA stories, highlights, and biggest moments. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.